Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. I don't have a guest for you today. I don't know if that's going to disappoint some people or excite some people. I'm not sure, but it's just me today. And I wanted to share with you guys some of the stuff that I've got coming up in the near future. And then I also wanted to talk through something that I see as a really important issue that needs to be discussed in the destination marketing space. So I'm going to start with the fact that I started this show in May of 2019. So we're now almost 7 years into this amazing show that I've had such a great time creating and producing for you all. But in that time, the show has remained relatively consistent in its format. And me and my team have been talking a lot this year about where podcasts are going, where shows are going, where the industry is going. And we've recognized that it's time for a little bit of evolution of my podcast as well. And so I wanted to give you a heads up on some of the changes that you can expect in the near future. So we're starting in Q2 of 2026, and this is when you're going to start to see this new format implemented on the show. So the first thing to let you know is that we're going to, instead of just diving right into the interview every week, I feel like there's so many things that I'm seeing in the space that I want to talk through with you all. We're actually going to start every episode with a, kind of short to medium sized monologue from me where I can actually identify the issue in the industry that I'd like to discuss and share with you all what my thoughts and opinions are. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get from you all is that while it's great to hear what the guest has to say and everything, sometimes people would like to hear more of what I think. And so I'm going to add that at the beginning of each show. The other thing is, as we look at our analytics, the New Year's resolution episodes that we've done every year are some of the most listened to episodes that we have. And so I think that's something that I'd like to do a little bit more often is give you all the opportunity to hear what my opinion is on the issues. And then of course we'll still get in with a guest and bring on somebody really smart to help us, round out the conversation and make it finish a little more intelligently than it began when it was just me. So I hope you all will let me know what you think of the new format. That's going to be really helpful to me. And we're also going to be testing a few segments. So, for example, one of the things that we may do with the guest inside of the interview is add a segment like a marketing myth bust, something that allows us to talk about one of the misconceptions in the industry right now, or, maybe there's something that's not a myth, but people think it's a myth. Whatever it is, it's something that we're going to want to tackle. I'm going to give a little bit of my opinion. I'm also going to invite the guest to give their opinion. And then I also really want to do more audience Q&A. For my 400th episode earlier, I guess it was towards the end of last year, had the opportunity to do a live, and we answered a lot of questions that you all sent in. And I really enjoyed that because it kind of felt like more of a conversation with the group as opposed to just a conversation between me and the guests. So I intend over the next several months, we're probably going to test a few different segment types. And I need help from you all to understand what is resonating the most. What are the segments that you enjoy the most? What are the segments you could do without that you'd prefer we just abandon? And we're really going to use the next quarter as kind of an opportunity to test some components of a format and make sure that we're bringing you the very best version of this show that we can. And so for this first episode, as I told you that it's going to be just me, I do have a monologue prepared, and it's something that I think is going to be really valuable and interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on your reaction to the issue that I want to share today. So I'm going to dive right in. One of the things that I've seen for a long time, and I've talked about it on both Destination Discourse and the Destination Marketing Podcast, is that I believe the marketing equation has changed. And I've talked a lot about how I believe that attention plus trust equals action. And it used to be awareness, consideration, and purchase, where if somebody's aware of you, then they'll consider you in their options as they're deciding what to buy. Then ultimately, maybe they'll purchase from you. And we're trying to walk people through that funnel. Well, this new equation is different, because awareness is no longer enough. The volume of messages that are out there for people is just insane. And they have so many options. Interruption-based advertising no longer has the same effect that it did before. And so I'm proposing that if attention is the most important thing, inevitably that has to have some impact on how we're planning our budgets. Also, attention without relevance is wasted. And so we need to make sure that attention, that we're not just getting useless attention, but we're actually getting attention that we can convert into trust and ultimately into action. And so I'm going to talk through, in order to do that today, how should you think about your annual marketing budget? And as the attention economy has continued to progress and evolve, I'm looking at these destination marketing budgets and recognizing that these budgets are not built for the attention economy. And that's going to cause some problems, and we're kind of coming up on a performance cliff if things don't change. So first of all, I think one of the most important things that we can talk about is how budgets have historically been structured. So when you think about a marketing budget, usually what you have is your campaign creation budget. Lots of times that will include a TV shoot. It'll include the list of photography and B-roll and videography that you want to get. It'll also include some component of design and creative concepting. So, if you're a mountain destination, maybe the campaign is "It's better out here" or something. And by the way, that's totally just off the top of my head. I'm not trying to pull any specific campaign that somebody's got going, but everything throughout that year would usually roll up to that campaign, right? The "It's better out here" campaign. But as you think about that, what that means is you're going to have a very specific agency budget, because a lot of you are using agencies to plan and execute your media strategy. And usually that's going to be an itemized budget that says we're going to spend this much on programmatic, we're going to spend this much on outdoor, we're going to spend this much on our meta ads, and so on and so forth. But in the attention economy, what that means, if you really think about it, is if your campaign is ineffective that you come up with at the beginning of the year, your media budget for the rest of the year is somewhat wasted. And so it's so important that paid media only be used to distribute messaging that we know is effective, that we know is relevant, and that we know is going to generate enough attention to convert into trust and ultimately action. And so you're banking so much. If this is the way you've structured your budget, you are banking so much on the quality of this creative idea that you're leading with at the beginning of the year, that you're building your footage around, that you're building your print media around, that you're building all of your different activities around. And I am concerned that there's a lot of destinations who, if they miss on the creative, they actually are guaranteeing failure through their media budget. So I want to talk about restructuring this budget so that in the attention economy, our content that we create and our paid media strategy work well together and actually help us gather the attention and convert that attention into trust and ultimately action. So number one, I think what's really, really important is that the way we think about content and creative needs to change. Content and creative is not a beginning of the year line item anymore. Content and creative needs to be, so if we take the overall budget, let's say theoretically that historically 10 to 15% of your budget was spent on creative, and that was front loaded at the beginning of the year. I think now what we need to look at is a consistent content budget throughout the year that's not front-loaded. And yes, this means we may sacrifice production value and quality, but remember, broadcast level spots, no longer carry the same percentage of the marketing plan that they did in the past. And so, yes, you may sacrifice a little bit on quality on the front end, but what you're going to do is have more opportunities, more volume on the back end to make sure that you have a message that resonates. So let's break down how that should work. If you have a consistent budget throughout the year, now you're going to be out building content consistently. This is going to be video content, and I think it should be video first, but some of this is going to be jumping on social media trends. Some of this is going to be really creative and unique ideas designed not to try to sell the destination in the first interaction, but instead it's all around getting attention. This may be office prank videos. Again, I'm not I'm just giving you ambiguous examples here, but this may be office prank videos that you're able to get attention and tie to the destination in some way. This may be something funny that happens on the beach and a quick kind of grassroots style video. This is your team, especially your in-house marketing team, doing interesting and creative things on a daily basis and filming it. And this is completely different than a lot of destinations are tackling this today. And I do think there's destinations, especially some that have big budgets, that may be leaning a little heavier into this side of things. But the way I would think about it is that every month we have this much budget that's going to high volume, high variety, creative ideas with low production value. And this should happen every single month. And when I say high variety, I mean there should be a very, very high variety. This is not walking into one stakeholder one day and telling the story of that stakeholder and ordering a latte or something like that and showing what the experience is like. This is like 50 different video types in one stakeholder, and 50 might sound like a lot for one day, but of course I'm talking about over the course of time. Guys, have you created your profile yet on Tourism IQ? Tourism IQ has become one of the very best resources in the destination marketing industry. You can see all the latest jobs there, and Lori Farr, who many of you may know from when she was doing the travel vertical, she's the editorial director at Tourism IQ, and she puts together all the latest available jobs. She tells us where people have gone when they take a new job. It's called People on the Move. She posts the latest RFPs. We have a lot of thought leadership there from different leaders in the industry. And really, Tourism IQ has become one of the very best places for you to develop professionally in the destination marketing space. It's got all the resources you need, and it's growing every day. We have over 530 active profile users. These are people that have created profiles on the site. And then we have another 2,800 active lookers who haven't created a profile, but they are there consuming the content and revisit the site on an ongoing basis. This site is growing every day. I'm so proud of what it's become, and I need everyone to go create a profile and see the incredible resources that are being posted for our industry on a daily basis. mytourismiq.com is the URL. Please go check it out. Fill out a profile on mytourismiq.com. There's a crazy social media trend happening that we're going to go jump on. Let me give you an example. So this last week, one of the most viral things that has happened is Afro Man. If any of you know the artist Afro Man, I bet you never thought you'd hear an Afro Man reference on the Destination Marketing Podcast. There was a trial, but that was involving a civil lawsuit between him and some police officers that came into his house. I'm not going to opine on the case or any part of it, but the thing that happened is he had security footage all through his house, and using that security footage, he created music videos about the police that came into his house, and the police sued him for defamation. The songs that he created because of this trial have gone mega viral, like crazy viral. And a couple of nights ago, the Savannah Bananas, between innings, played Afro Man's Lemon Pound Cake song that was making fun of one of the officers who came into the house. And when he saw the pound cake that was on the counter, he did a double take. And it's so funny. It was just like this brief, quick double take. And Afro Man made a song about how this officer wanted to put down his gun and eat pound cake instead of doing his job. And anyway, this video went crazy viral. So much so that the Savannah Bananas, in between innings, actually played Afro Man's song, and you can hear the entire stadium laughing at how funny it is that they're playing this song in the middle of the game. The reason that's effective is because something happened culturally in the world, and the Savannah Bananas were nimble enough to take that opportunity to capitalize on it in their destination experience and create a super viral moment as a result. And there's no reason that destinations can't also be citizens of the world and look at what's happening in culture and capitalize on those opportunities to get attention. And so the thing that I want everyone to understand is if you'll go high volume, high variety, and be nimble in what you can do from a content perspective and not spend your entire content budget at the end of the year with a simple shoot or maybe 2 or 3 shoots, you maintain the flexibility to be able to get attention all year long, regardless of what happens in the world. So step 1 is I would probably, if I used to put 15% of my budget into content that happened at the beginning of the year, I'm now going 25% on content and I'm spreading it out evenly throughout the year. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm decreasing the production value of my content and I'm going high volume, high variety. Well, okay, that's 25% of the media budget. Now, of the destination marketing budget. What do I do with the remaining budget? Well, with your paid media budget, which I believe probably should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% of the remaining amount, 40 to 50%, depending on how much earned and shared media you're doing. I really believe that with that paid media should now be reactive, not proactive. And what I mean by that is if you're getting attention with your organic content, with this high variety, high volume content that you're creating, whatever gets attention, I'm now leveraging paid media to scale that content. So if I have a video, let's say I'm the Savannah Bananas and my Afro Man video went crazy, I am now taking that video and I'm putting paid media behind it to either boost or to run it as a true paid ad on whatever platform it went viral on. Because remember, one of the most important things to know in this attention economy is that different things get different people's attention on different platforms. So what goes viral on Instagram Reels may not go viral on TikTok. And so if you take something that goes viral on Instagram Reels and you say, okay, I'm making this a paid media ad on TikTok, there's going to be a disconnect there. So what we have to do is this high volume, high variety by platform, see what gets attention, and then paid media is a vehicle to scale that attention to get as much of it as possible until you see diminishing returns. And then when you see diminishing returns, of course, you can now turn down that paid media spend. And that's how you can get attention and scale attention quickly. But this means your paid media budget is no longer, I'm putting this much on billboards, I'm putting this much on Meta and this much on programmatic or whatever. What I'm actually doing in that scenario is the bucket of money that is my paid media budget is a whole budget. And then based on the attention I'm getting, I'm using a variety of platforms to scale that attention once I get it through content. So you can see that this is a complete paradigm shift of how budgets should be constructed, because now paid media is no longer set for the year and kind of proactive. Instead, it's reactive to what's getting attention. We are treating now creative like a research tool. A research tool to see what message, what video structure, what video type is going to resonate the most and get the most attention. Once we find that it gets attention and we've got the research to show that it gets that attention, we're now leveraging our paid media budget to scale. So we know that our paid media budget is going to be extremely efficient compared to the other ways that we've been doing things, because it's only going to be promoting things that already demonstrated the ability to get our attention organically. And the testing grounds for that is, of course, likely going to be on the different social channels. That can be everything from YouTube to Pinterest to TikTok to Instagram to Facebook and so on and so forth. And you need to be testing a high variety of this content on all those different channels and then leveraging your paid media budget to scale attention. So that's going to leave probably a lot of unspent paid media budget. And in that case, what we should be doing then is now, once that we've gotten the attention, we're not just giving up on it once it came. We should be running significant retargeting campaigns on YouTube, on Meta off of our website to target the people who gave us their attention, and now we're converting that attention into trust. And now we have our acquisition campaigns where instead of, hey, here's a funny video, or hey, here's an entertaining video, or whatever, we are now putting acquisition ads, usually retargeting someone who demonstrated a willingness to look at what we have to say. And again, this is just going to be so much more efficient as a leverage of paid media than the waste that I'm seeing in the industry right now. But this strategy that I'm talking about cannot be done unless we truly change the way we're structuring our marketing budgets. So I know it's dangerous and it's difficult. It's also a paradigm shift for your board and stakeholders to suddenly have an ambiguous media budget that doesn't have all these detailed line items. So you're going to have to educate on why there's no specific line items and that you plan on deploying your paid media strategy in a much more timely manner and only to scale attention from something that's already demonstrated the ability to get it. So I think this is going to be difficult in a lot of ways because you're going to have a difficult time educating the necessary stakeholders in order to do this. But in this attention economy, this is the very best way to limit waste of paid media. I've talked a lot about how I don't believe that paid media carries the same value that it used to. And what I've realized in hundreds of conversations now is that paid media is not the problem. The way we're using paid media is the problem. And the way we're budgeting for paid media is the problem. And I believe that if we actually double down on getting attention, real, interesting, and relevant attention, and then we leverage paid media to convert that into trust and ultimately visitation, I think you're going to see a major change in the value of the efforts that you're executing on and the results that you see in your destination. So I wanted to share that with everybody because I've just seen so much of it in this media planning, and that we're planning so much before we even know what content is going to resonate with the audience. And we're essentially putting it all on black on these creative campaigns and hoping it resonates for the year because we don't have any more creative budget until next year if it doesn't work. And so I really, really hope to see destinations leveraging this strategy of instead of doing all your creative and content and budgeting for it at the beginning of the year, keep your budget steady throughout the year, and then high volume, high variety. Let's use our content as research, and whatever gets interest, we'll scale it through paid media. And then guess what? For next year, if you want to do a high value production spot or for broadcast or whatever, well, at least now you know what's getting attention and you know that money is being well spent. I'm so excited to see you guys implement this. If you try it and it works, let me know. If you try it and it doesn't work, let me know. I really want to see how this is going to work for destinations, and I'm absolutely planning on working with my clients to help this paradigm shift happen so that we can actually get attention, trust, and results in this new attention economy. Thanks, everybody. That's today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the new format. I really appreciate you listening. And of course, if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave us a rating or a review. And other than that, we'll see you all next week. Guys, have you adjusted for AI yet? I've talked a lot on this show about the importance of making the transition from tactician to strategist, and we in our organization have really done that. It's actually been really fun to have some of the conversations that I've had with some of the DMOs that we talk to. I've reached out and said, look, we're not chasing agency of record work anymore. We want to be the agency that can help you solve the strategy problem you have not yet solved. And when I've asked that question, we've got one destination who's got us building a LinkedIn strategy for them. Another one has us building a Reddit strategy so they can show up more clearly in the LLMs and make sure they're showing up where the searches are happening. There's another destination that's had us build a corporate partnerships program to help them connect better with the local business community and hopefully generate even some unrestricted funding at that point. If you have a problem that you've not yet solved and you need some help to do it, my team is working on some of the coolest projects I've seen in the industry, and I would love for my team to be able to help you as well. Make sure you reach out to me at adam@thebrandrevolt.com. If you have one of those nagging projects, a problem you've not yet been able to solve, I'm very confident my team can do it. Remember, adam@thebrandrevolt.com. Hit me up. We'll take a look at what you got and see if we can give it a solve.